everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Virginia NORML. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and the Executive Director of your state chapter, Virginia NORML. Today's Friday, June 10th, 2022. And as always, we're going to talk all things cannabis in the Commonwealth and answer your burning questions live. Hi, Elizabeth. Howdy, Jeff. Hello to Ron and Robin and Heather. Good to see you all here, friends. So for those of you who've been following along, the Virginia General Assembly finally approved a budget. Now, the budget will take effect, or could take effect, when Governor Youngkin signs it. And this budget contains substantial changes to cannabis law. We're going to talk about how that will impact consumers. Hey, Bernie, Sherry, happy Friday to you as well. Thank you, Cassidy, for getting that in there immediately. So the big takeaway is that this approved budget language would recriminalize possession, public possession of over 4 ounces of marijuana. So at over 4 ounces, it would become a misdemeanor to possess in public. The good part is that the language we had requested was included, which clarifies that personal possession at home in one's residence is not subject to such penalties. Hi, Vicky. I'm so glad to see you here, friend. Elizabeth, you're right. That's exactly what it is. Now, here's the bit about 4 ounces. Most states that have enacted legalization have a misdemeanor at some point. The way Virginia code was written, it went civil penalty, over 1 ounce to up to a pound was a civil penalty, $25. And then at 1 pound, it became a felony. And a state agency, JLARC, pointed out that that's not how we do it. That's not how we write code in Virginia. That's not what other states do. Other states have a misdemeanor step in between. And this got telephoned into. JLARC is recommending that we criminalize possession of marijuana in public. And it was like, that's not really what they said. But that's the current excuse that we're hearing as to why this happened. Now, could they have put a misdemeanor in there? Sure. Could they have done it properly? Yes, and they didn't. What they didn't do, what they failed to recognize, is the way they wrote this criminalizes possession of any marijuana. And right now, everything is defined as marijuana. The only difference in marijuana products, and I'm saying marijuana for those of you who are going to message us in the next 2 seconds, because that's what's in code here in Virginia. The only difference in cannabis and marijuana products are medical products have a different code definition. So this doesn't pertain to medical products that are purchased at legal medical dispensaries in Virginia. This applies to unregulated cannabis products in Virginia, which are defined as marijuana. So that includes seeds, that includes any concentrate, it includes edibles. And when you get to edibles, you get into those heavier weights pretty quickly. So with 4 ounces, that's not a lot if you're talking about an edible product, something heavy like candy or a cookie or a brownie. So you need to, if this goes into effect, be very thoughtful about leaving your home with edible cannabis products. Ronson, that's not moving forward enough. Yeah, I'm just going to put this up here. Because I think what you're talking about, Ronson, was clarifying the personal possession at home. And yeah, that's not really enough. That was just a simple code cleanup that we needed to make happen. And fortunately, that did happen. There are a number of code cleanups that we need to make happen, and that just was a really important one that they happened to take. I wouldn't consider much of this budget language relating to cannabis any meaningful step forward other than that. Hi, Kwame. Vicky illicit. Just put that up there. Elizabeth, yeah, look, we could be making some tax revenue on this in Virginia, but we aren't because Virginians voted in November, and in November, Virginians elected a Republican-controlled House of Delegates and a Republican administration, and we have a Democratic Senate. And really, the Democratic Senate is the only reason we're not walking this back in huge steps that no other state has done, is because we have that Democratic controlled Senate that's at least attempting to advocate for more common sense cannabis policies, although you can see it's still not quite right. Yeah, so with this divided government, it becomes really, really difficult to advance most things. Cannabis isn't any easier. In fact, it's often more difficult. So, we did pass some bills during the session, far fewer than we have in recent years, and I think we're getting away from the budget here. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that I don't see a path forward in 2023. It's not any clearer. We do have I think we've made it clear that we need to come into the 2023 General Assembly with very skinny bills that just address a very narrow set of policy changes or code sections. We can't have a 300-page or 400-page bill. You cannot give legislators an excuse for a third year in a row that it's too big. I can't read it. It's too many pages. Lots of bills are big. The cannabis bill has been large for 2 sessions in a row because most of it is a page with a comma inserted in alcohol code. So even this, it's too big, is kind of not real. There aren't really that many pages in the cannabis bills that have been introduced that deal with actual cannabis code. But nonetheless, there's no reason to give that excuse for a third year in a row. So, we're going to come back with skinny bills. We're going to see what we can do. But right now, there is not a single committee in the House of Delegates which would advance a cannabis regulation for adult use bill to the floor of the House of Delegates. So just put that out there. All right. So the budget, it hasn't even been that long, and it's like I forgot all the terrible things that were in it. Hey, Cassidy, maybe you could find that budget document in our drive and share a link for me. Right, so possession of over 4 ounces and less than a pound, if the governor signs this and doesn't attempt to amend it, will be a class 3 misdemeanor for a first offense. It goes on your record, and that makes it punishable by a $500 fine. So that edible could get real expensive real quick. Second or subsequent offenses would be a class 2 misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and or a $1,000 fine. Yeah. Faith, you're right. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of bill, not by a long shot. I've been generous in saying that this is improperly drafted. This budget process was entirely opaque. We were very fortunate to have had any requests for any input in this process. Yeah. Hey, Moro Medical Associates asking a question, even if it's medical. No. So medical products that are dispensed by Virginia dispensaries, and I mean real dispensaries. You can find that list at vanormal.org/dispensaries. Actual medical dispensaries licensed by the state of Virginia, those products are considered either botanical cannabis, if it's flower, or cannabis oil, if it's anything other than flower. Even if it's a soft chew or a lozenge or a topical, it's still considered cannabis oil. Those are the two definitions in code for it. So medical cannabis products are different because they have different definitions. This applies or would apply to marijuana. That's the word in code. And that means any part of the plant, growing or not. Now, this includes seeds, and this would include concentrates that you make from cannabis products, from cannabis. To that point, if you were a patient and you purchased flour at the dispensary, or you purchased some sort of concentrate from the dispensary and then you made it into an edible, that wouldn't be a medical cannabis product anymore. That would be marijuana. So it's pretty easy to run afoul of this proposed language if it goes into effect. Now, what should happen is the Cannabis Control Authority board should promulgate equivalent possession amounts. But the way this happens, if the governor signs this and it takes effect, it's immediate. It's with his signature. And so the CCA will not have immediately promulgated equivalent possession limits. So there you go. There are some other not smart things about this. I'm going to read you what Delegate Adams said. Delegate Adams said, Virginia has, by legislating through the budget, legalized retail marijuana. We're just going to call it hemp. All tetrahydrocannabinols, not just Delta-9 THC, but Delta-8 THC and other synthetics, with the stroke of Governor Youngkin's pen, will be legal in Virginia as long as it's labeled hemp. That's what Dr. Adams, Delegate Dawn Adams, added to our blog on this topic. Both she and Delegate Mullins spoke against the recriminalization component, as well as other poorly drafted sections of the budget language. Yeah, I'm just taking a peek at that. So that's what's up with that. There are some sections of the bill that feign consumer protection, that require labeling, that purport to require testing, but there's no real oversight for this. Now, there were budget items to give big fat chunks of cash to VDACS, Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, to oversee the enforcement of the sale of these otherwise unregulated products that contain cannabis or cannabinoids. The thing is that enforcement by VDACS can only be done at food establishments. So it wouldn't pertain to a vape store or a hemp store or places that call themselves dispensaries that aren't, things like that. This is only going to apply to the gas station that's selling weird stuff like the one down the street from us here in this office, the health food store, whatever, places that sell food. So fonts. Oh, my dude. I'm just going to put that up there. Look, there's all about how, this was a compromise. This was a compromise. And sure, parts of it might have been a compromise, but it didn't need to be this poorly written Because I'm going to tell you, as you all know, because you show up every week, policy experts have been providing direct feedback for weeks as to what this language would or wouldn't do. Well, now this bill's been passed by the General Assembly, and state agencies and members of the legislature are realizing what it does, and they're not happy. And I'm like, well, do you think I was making it up? Anyhow, you've been warned. Not you all, but legislators, state agencies. Brian, people clearly sell this right now. So, today it appears that as long as you call it hemp, it's largely not going to be enforced by anyone. But again, I'll remind folks that we're not a business association. We don't represent business interests. We represent consumers. And consumers deserve to know what they're buying. They deserve to know that what's on the label is really what's in the package. And time and time and time again, that is not the case. Now, there are some really excellent stores out there that are trying their best, that are going above and beyond what state law requires, that are sending their products that are called hemp or CBD or whatever to actual analytical laboratories to have them tested so that consumers know what they're buying. Those stores are very few and far between. In fact, I only know of 2 in the state that are doing that. So, look, if it weren't, gosh, how many times we talk about this? The entire legalization conversation in Virginia, like in many other states, has devolved entirely into who gets to make a buck first or next off the backs of consumers. Without consumers, there is no cannabis industry. So why they get sold up the river so quickly is fascinating. Like, you'd think that companies want to do right by consumers. But that's not really where we're at. Anyhow, listen, friends, I want to hear your thoughts on that. The budget bills sitting on Governor Youngkin's desk. We'll have to see what he does, if he signs it, if he makes any amendments. It has to happen by July 1st. That's the D-Day for this budget is July 1st. Mike. Jessica, listen, my face is too honest. Cassidy tells me all the time, you're making that face out loud. People can see you. We talked to WRIC as well, and they have a nice piece out called Tax Cuts to Marijuana, What's in Virginia's Budget Deal. Hey, Faith, if the governor signs this budget, it goes into effect immediately. As soon as he signs it, it takes effect. We'll let you know what happens. Don't worry. A while back, I shared with you all a really excellent video called Cannabis, Same Laws for All But Different Justice. This features Virginia NORML board member Sheba Williams. Definitely give it a watch. It is delightful. I think that's the one, Cassidy, that's also there's also a yeah, there it is. I think that one also has the Apple podcast link. Scott, thank you for moving this along. Scott says, so it's safe to assume there will be no legalization framework in place until 2024 at a minimum. If that's the case, could we assume next session that any hemp-based products will be outlawed as well? You can't assume anything. You really can't, and I don't think that's what would happen. I think that the legislature was presented with the smart option, which is to onboard those products that are labeled hemp or whatever, right? Like I'm admittedly tired of calling them all these made up names, but these intoxicating products out there, or products that contain cannabinoids or whatever you want to call it. The legislature was presented with a path, a legislative path to just put these products under Cannabis Control Authority and have them all regulated the same. And then people got all sad that they weren't going to make money. And so that didn't happen. But that is the preferred policy choice. Listen, there are states that outright ban these products, and criminalization is not our preferred policy choice. The better choice is regulation. And if people want to buy it, then great, as long as it meets the safety standards. Because let's be real, these products, these Delta products that are out there, and the acetates and other isomers and analogs of THC that are out there, well, I shouldn't say that, because it's not THCO and THCP or HHC. Those are different. But, Delta 8, 10, 9, all these derivatives, they're made by boiling isolate in battery acid. So that's something that deserves, some real cleanup before someone sets it on fire and inhales it or eats it. Right? Like, it's fascinating that I'm looking for what's closest to me, that my cell phone, right? Or I have some bottled water in my fridge right there, that these things are more highly regulated than things that people are lighting on fire and inhaling. Oof. Happy Friday, Ryan. Good to see you. Hey, Fonz brings up an excellent point. It is possible to purchase products in Virginia that are safe and regulated. Participation in the medical cannabis program is about to get a lot easier, like a lot easier. Fortunately, we already have excellent things in place, like telehealth and delivery. No age restrictions, no conditions restrictions. You can find lots of providers with whom you can schedule telehealth appointments. These are people who specialize in medical cannabis therapy. You can find them at vanormal.org/doctors. You can click, you can schedule your telehealth appointment. And beginning July 1st, patients will not have to register in order to shop at dispensaries. Once you receive your written certification, that's what it's called, written certification from a registered practitioner, you can go straight to the dispensary and shop. Now, I will advise you that it's best to pre-register with a dispensary or dispensaries of your choice online. You can find all that on our website, so that you don't have to wait to go through the registration process at the dispensary, because lines could get long, at least in the early days when registration is no longer required. Now, of course, you will still have the option to register in order to receive a physical card. And we've had this question a few times. Do I need that for work? No, because the law is not written specific to the card or the registration. It's the written certification. So that's all you need for employment protection for medical cannabis in Virginia, is that written certification. But if you're traveling and you're going to a state that has reciprocity, then you may want to go ahead and get that card. Hopefully the new certificate, because the certificate is moving over to Department of Health Professions. Previously, the certificate was made by the Supreme Court of Virginia, and it looks like just some, because it is PDF made in Word, that anyone can make. it doesn't look super official. We've asked that the new one look a little beefier, maybe put the state seal on there or something, so that hopefully patients can use that instead of having to pay for the card, but we'll see. Yes, Scott, that is what will take effect on July 1. On July 1, patients will not be required to register. They will be required to have written certification from a registered practitioner. That's it. July 1. If you are the parent or legal guardian of a minor or incapacitated adult for whom you are their registered agent for medical cannabis, you will still have to register. It's $25 registration fee. So what else can we say? What else can we say? Thank you for finding that Apple Podcast link, Cassidy. Ronson, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Sue, so dispensary drivers, that means the delivery services that are in contract with or employees of Virginia's medical cannabis dispensaries, they're delivering medical cannabis products, and that is defined differently in code than products produced outside of that regulatory framework. So we have, if you grow it at home, or if you make an edible at home, that's called marijuana. And that's what these new potential penalties apply to. If you purchase products at the dispensary and you keep them in their original packaging, like you didn't make something else out of it, then that's going to be either cannabis oil, regardless of what form it's in, or botanical cannabis if it's flower. So if you can, as a patient, purchase up to 4 ounces of flower every 30 days. You're going to want to be thoughtful about this and make sure you keep your packaging on hand. Hey, Christy. Who regulates medical in Virginia? That's currently the Board of Pharmacy. That's right. Board of Pharmacy is the current regulator for medical cannabis in Virginia. Now, in 2023, medical cannabis moves over to Cannabis Control Authority. So that's when we could see more expansion of the program. We could potentially see new licensing opportunities under the medical program. It's going to move away from Board of Pharmacy, but it'll stay there until next year. Jessica asks, but as it stands, if you have a concealed weapons permit, is that what you're asking me about? Concealed carry? Is that what you're asking me about concealed weapons? Look, if you're a medical cannabis patient, that's a medical record. It's not disclosed. The only way anyone else, state agency, federal government, knows if someone is a medical cannabis patient is if that person discloses it. As far as people who use cannabis and have firearms, I mean, clearly they do that now. It's all about what they answer on the background check. Interestingly, Virginia does not have a guns and weed charge. Those charges in Virginia are federal. Doesn't mean they don't happen. And I think that in 2023, one of the thank you, Cassidy. In next session, I've already heard from legislators who are very interested in introducing legislation that the other states have passed that protect the Second Amendment rights of responsible cannabis consumers, be they adults or medical patients. So stay tuned for that bill. David, we are discussing the proposed budget language that has been approved by the Virginia General Assembly and is sitting on Governor Youngkin's desk. So he could make amendments. We'll see. Oh, Sue, I hope I answered your question before I'm seeing this comment. There's a little bit of a delay, but medical cannabis delivery drivers for Virginia dispensaries are not subject to this because it's not marijuana, it's medical cannabis. Different in code. Yes, Ronnie. On July 1, patients in Virginia will not be required to register. You'll simply need the written certification. You'll simply need someone was outside my door. And I thought it was someone that I don't care for, so that was startling. Patients won't have to register. Once you get your written certification from a registered practitioner, you go straight to the dispensary. Anyhow, oh, Amy would like to know, when will dispensaries be able to sell to adult consumers? Great question. See, Virginians voted last November and they elected a divided government. And the House of Delegates, there is not a single committee in the House of Delegates that would send an adult use cannabis bill to the floor of the House. So there's literally no way, not any way today, no avenue, no path forward, nada, for a cannabis legalization for adult use bill, adult use sales, however you want to frame it, retail. There's no way for that bill to get to the floor of the House of Delegates. So I don't know what creative nonsense is going to come up. They're going to come up with between now and the next session. It's just not a priority for those folks. And the people who control the committees, it's not that there wouldn't be the votes if it got to the floor. It's the chairs of the committees that are generally opposed to retail cannabis sales for adult use. So that makes it next to impossible to get that bill through. And we even tried in the 2022 session by sending the bill directly to the Appropriations Committee, which created a cannabis subcommittee. That subcommittee chair is a delightful human who would, in fact, move a bill up to full committee. But when it gets up to the full committee, the chair of Appropriations, he is not interested in this. Ooh. Christy. Hemp is sort of regulated by the Department of Ag. Sort of. Not really, though. Just sort of. Yes. Well, I don't even want to frame it like that. Look, the products that are produced by Virginia's licensed medical cannabis providers are highly regulated for consumer safety. Everything else is not. It's because of Virginia's poorly written laws, it's not really about THC. In fact, you could go to stores in Virginia right now and buy unregulated products that contain much, much higher amounts of THC than is allowed in our medical cannabis products. Medical cannabis products in Virginia, this doesn't apply to flower because that's not how it works. That's different. But for any product that is made from an extract, that's a concentrate, a tincture, an oil, a salve, or whatever, those products can only contain 10 milligrams of THC per dose and 100 per package. You can go buy this product that's a can of water that purports to have 18 milligrams of THC in it. Who knows if it does, because it's entirely unregulated. But they call it hemp, and they say that that's less than 0.3% of the total giant can of water, which only contains 1 serving. You couldn't sell that at a medical dispensary in Virginia because it has 18 milligrams, supposedly. Hi, James. Are you talking? I don't know what 7.8 to 9 grams here in Georgia are, but Georgia's got some wacky cannabis laws. In Yesenia, in Texas, I hope you are connected with Texas NORML, led by my colleague Jax James. She's doing amazing things there. So is Texas NORML, so get involved. Sue, thanks for asking. Everything's considered marijuana. It's all marijuana in Virginia. Marijuana, marijuana, marijuana. That's the word in code for everything that's not a regulated medical cannabis product. We did have hashish in code until 2020. I couldn't remember. Until 2020 when we passed decrim. And the year we passed decrim, we took hashish out of code because it's not the 70s and we have better language. Also, it was like really harshly criminalized. Possession of any amount was a felony. So if you put it like a vape pen with residue, it was a felony. Yeah, Christy, we also regulate I love this. It's exactly what we say all the time. We absolutely need integrity. We don't have to reinvent the wheel because we already regulate cannabis in Virginia. And the way we regulate cannabis in Virginia is based on 2 decades of real world regulatory experience with cannabis in the United States. So there are no rules yet. Sue, everything is just marijuana. Just marijuana. Hi, Keisha. Good to see you. All right, friends. Well, this has been fun. You know, hey, guess what? It's June. That means it's Pride Month. And so we got some new stuff and we're going to put it in the Virginia NORML Facebook store. Of course, when we go to Pride Fest, which is in September, we'll have it there for you as well. But I hope not only that you'll check out the NORML store, which has our Coming Out Green merchandise available 365 days a year. We're also going to throw some fun things up in the Virginia NORML Facebook shop. So check that out. Not today. I mean, check it out today and buy socks. Okay, but I'm not doing this before I leave for the weekend. Hi, Della. Good to see you. Ronson says, will we be able to get licenses in 23, but it not go into effect until 24 to allow those who are trying to do things right to prepare under the guidelines they were given when licenses are given? So what's going to happen, Ronson, is in 2023, we're going to have hopefully a very skinny bill for licensing retail adult use cannabis and production as well. We have to pass that bill. And so if we pass a bill for retail sales in 23, there'd be no way there has a super majority of support in the House of Delegates or in the Senate. So it couldn't have an emergency clause. So the earliest it could take effect is July 1. So it's really legislative math that you're doing at this point, that if a bill could succeed, could in 23, it could, the earliest take effect is July 1. And then the Cannabis Control Authority from that point would then be authorized to do whatever it has to do to get ready for this licensing process. So it's entirely unrealistic to think that CCA would be able to issue licenses in 23 at all, because that's really fast to go from the new law takes effect and then to issue, to say you could issue licenses, within 6 months would be a rush job for a Virginia state agency. That's just the reality of it. But at this point, how do we get a bill like that to the floor of the House? That's the real question. So, oh, James asking about Georgia. Right, James, you're asking about Georgia and 5%. So there are a few states that have these sort of limited access, and they were sort of couched as CBD bills back in the day, and Virginia was one of those states. And I think that Virginia, Texas, and Georgia all sort of had the same similar language. Here's the thing: 5% applied to the final product, which I believe in Georgia you have extraction-based products, and 5% on the final product would be 50 milligrams of THC per milliliter. That's a lot. So unless it's written specific to the dry weight of the plant, then it doesn't really, it's not as limiting as it appears to be. Percentage is not applied. It doesn't mean the same thing amongst all these different products. 5% in a dry weight flower is not anywhere equivalent to 5% in a liquid. Science, friends. I'm gonna put that up there. Mike's got some sentiments for the day. Jen, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I'm glad we can be helpful every week. Kenny, hey, good to see you. All right, friends. I think that's all we've got for this week. And it's sitting right here in front of me. I almost forgot. We were at I'm awkwardly turn around so you can see the back of my sweatshirt. That's what we do. I have no idea what you can see. But we were at the NORML Aspen legal seminar last week. You can get this hoodie or the long sleeve t-shirt that I have underneath, or short sleeve version. You can get that in the NORML store if you want. It's store.norml.org. You can also, we have a limited number of copies. It's like I think it's less than 20 copies in the store of The Untested. It's a legal thriller by NORML Legal Committee member Greg Morse. He generously donated these autographed copies of his new novel, The Untested, to NORML, and so they are in the NORML web store. I know they were delivered because I got a delivery notification, and they'll be in the shop soon. If not today, then early next week. So you can get those copies of autographed copies of The Untested. Yeah, you can also pick up some Coming Out Green merch for any Pride-related events, or just regular life events that you might be going to this month. Thank you so much, Ronnie. That's so nice of you. Kenny, get yourself a sweatshirt at store.norml.org. Oh, Mike, that's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Listen, if you're watching this over the weekend and you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the comments, or you can send us an email at info@Virginia NORML. It's Virginia spelled out. info@virginianorml.org. If you have questions about how to get involved with NORML wherever you are in the world, you can send me and Cassidy an email at chapters@norml.org, and we will get you connected. Jen Fisher, you know exactly what volunteer opportunities are in September, because you know that we're going to Pride Fest. If you want to do that, just shoot us an email. Keisha, you have a great weekend as well. All right, everyone. We'll do this again next Friday. Let me look at that calendar real quick. Yeah, sure, why not? Oh, before September? Jen, listen, reading is hard today. You want to come to the office and do some stuff with merch. That's what I know right now. Hey, thanks, John. That's very nice of you. All right, friends. Jen, you shoot me an email. Happy Pride to you as well, John. Everyone, if you're not subscribed, please head to norml.org/subscribe right now. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and follow wherever you're watching. And as always, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.